Nepal is one of the most dramatic and breathtakingly beautiful countries on earth. Situated literally on the rooftop of the world, Nepal has long been a magnet, drawing pilgrims, adventurers, explorers, mountain climbers, trekkers, photographers, and tourists alike from all parts of the globe. Welcomed by the genteel and very hospitable Nepali people, most visitors make many return trips. Nepalis are industrious, dependable, and hard-working. Some are world-renowned as Sherpa mountain guides who've assisted countless international mountain climbers to scale Mount Everest and many other famous local peaks. Gurkhas, Nepal's famous guards, are known for their military skill, bravery, and loyalty. They serve as security guards the world over. Simply said, the people are one of Nepal's most valuable assets and exports. But there is trouble in paradise. Seeking financial relief for their families due to Nepal's emerging economy, more than 6 million, or 1 in every 6 Nepalis, now works abroad, sending money home. This often helps their parents and siblings dramatically, but the flip side of this job-seeking necessity is that criminal elements in India, Nepal itself, and the Middle East have exploited uneducated Nepali girls and young men. Often tricked by offers of well-paying jobs abroad or sometimes brutally kidnapped, these virginal girls and young men become a statistic in the annual, worldwide, $200 billion a year human trafficking and sex trade industry. This criminal activity feeds the lust of men who see women simply as property or sex objects, and add to this sex tourism. Today there are more than 50,000 Nepali girls working in cabin restaurants in Kathmandu alone, serving as dancers and prostitutes, some as young as 10 years old. This horrific abuse of children results in their untold pain, suffering, disease, wastage of their young lives, loss of hope as social outcasts, ending in emotional and sometimes physical death. Is there a solution to this problem that is so grave and widespread? We believe there is. Together, we can be a part of the solution. Watch for ways to help at the end of this TV special. Yes, each one of us, you and I, can make a difference right now.
At the time I was 13 years old and I had to care for my nephew and other family members in my village, so I came to Kathmandu searching for a job to support them. I found work at a cabin restaurant, but when I started working there they touched us everywhere on our bodies, our breasts and our private parts. I was afraid to even go to the toilet. I earned $30 a month. I had no identity documents, but I knew I had to get away and find another job and a better education. I was trapped until I met Indira. I call her Didi, Nepali for auntie. She started supporting me and now I am studying tailoring. I have a dream to start my own tailoring shop one day. Thank you Indira, Didi and Change Action Nepal.
I was working in my village carpet factory when I was 13 and a so-called friend told me to go where I would make more money. Foolishly, I trusted her, but she tricked me and trapped me. In Mumbai, India, she sold me to a brothel. I still hoped I could help my mother and 6 poor brothers and sisters in Nepal. After 2 years and little income, I was arrested by the Indian police as a minor and spent 6 months in prison with more sexual abuse and torture. Finally, I was released, but when I got back to my village, I was shunned. And, worst of all, my family rejected me as a trafficked girl with HIV. This rejection lasted for 20 years. But after the recent earthquake, which killed many in my village, including family members, it brought something good for me. Indira Didi and I worked together to bring relief materials to our village, such as food and medical supplies, and now my family and the people in my village embrace and accept me. Thank you, Indira Didi and Change Action Nepal.
I was led to Indira. I was drawn to her because of her fearless bravery and her ability to speak clearly and succinctly and to speak truth into the desperate situation of this nation. And I love Indira because of the work she has done here in mothering and loving those who have been so miserably treated. We as a family have come to help Indira, to bring life and change, and to make a difference.
This desperate and sickly woman represents thousands, hundreds of thousands of Nepali girls like her. She was kidnapped and trafficked as a 12-year-old child from her village. And to this day, she is continually bleeding from the injuries she sustained by years of rapes, physical violations, and abuse.
When I was 12 years old, before my first period, a sisterly acquaintance in my village that I trusted, along with her brother, lured and sold me for $500. I was taken to India. There I was sold again as a child bride. Even though I was too young, he forced me and raped me many, many times. Due to this, I was injured in my private parts and started to suffer vaginal bleeding. Yet I stayed. But after bearing him 2 children, he started beating me day in and day out and physically abused the children as well. He starved us. I couldn't take it anymore, and after 8 years I ran away with my children and stayed hidden. Then an elderly person helped me return to my village in Nepal. But back in Nepal, I was totally rejected by my family. My brothers verbally abused me, saying I was a tramp with a wasted life. So I left my village again and traveled with my kids to Kathmandu. There I started working in cabin sex restaurants to support my family. But for the first 2 months, the owner continually told me I was ugly and didn't know how to flirt with the customers. I felt very shy and afraid, so sometimes I stayed away outside the restaurant. Then the boss would not pay me my $25 a month salary he owed me.
Now too old to be a sex worker, she struggles to provide for her children's education as a housemaid. But her ill health prevents this.
My family could easily help, but they don't help me. I am alone.
Rejected by her family, Arati still wants to prevent the same things happening to her daughters.
I have been raped several times. Once in a bus park when 3 men held me and one by one they raped me. No one told me about my rights because I just came from a village. I don't want my daughters to go through the same fate I went through. I can't read, so I send them to school, but still they want to go abroad to find work to help me out of our poverty. I have helped many women in the same situation as me. One close friend with a 2-year-old daughter told me that after she finished with the client, while she was on the phone, then the client started to molest her 2-year-old daughter.
We were then introduced to a young mother with a similar tragic story, whose husband went to the Middle East to get work. But the monthly salary of $180 that he earned for very hard construction work in extreme heat in the Middle East, and it was not enough to support he and his wife and small daughter in Kathmandu. So his wife simply had to find work.
Sometimes when the husband is abroad and wife is in the village, and sometimes the husband is not able to send enough money for the children, and like no books for his children in the school, and somehow they have to come to Kathmandu and they try to find a job, and sometimes is not able to find a job, and somehow they got into like kind of bad jobs, and somehow they're into it and involved, and I mean, once they're in, they cannot come out because they are okay, they are earning money and it's like going on.
Such a situation happened to this young mother with dire consequences. While she was at work, she got a phone call from her babysitter to return home immediately. She told her that her 4-year-old daughter was very cold. And upon arrival, she discovered that the husband of the babysitter, who was a trusted neighbor, had gone to her bedroom and raped her. The police arrived to find the child in a pool of blood. She was taken immediately to the hospital, where the doctors performed emergency surgery to save her life by repairing the extensive damage. And because of her severe injuries, the doctors said she would probably never have children. Indira took us to meet this young mother and to comfort her and her little girl.
As soon as I hugged her, she relaxed, and I asked, "What is your greatest fear?" Immediately she wept and said, "I am afraid for my daughter's future. What will happen to her as she grows up? Will she be permanently damaged? It is like my little girl, in some ways, is dead after the rape." I was surprised by this response and asked my translator, "Did she say it's like her daughter was dead after the rape?" Indira replied, "Yes, this is exactly what she said." Then I knew that I could tell her my story. As a baby, and later as a 4-year-old child, I was a victim of sexual abuse in my own home and family. Then I was a dead child and adult for almost 40 years after living a life of pain, cover-up, silence, and agony. But thankfully, one day I found relief. First time in my life. Until then, I'd spent my life crying. But after I met an amazing lady who showed me how to revisit the trauma and go right back into the cage where it all began, she asked me to walk out by facing my demons, my abusers, my fears, and the agony and fear of abuse and the rapes. I learned to take my will back from my abusers. Slowly from then on, I was changed. Gently, I continued speaking to this precious young Nepali mother. There is hope for your baby's future. Indira and I can teach you how to help your child. The greatest thing in the world is for your little girl to know that you are with her. Mommy is with her, and you will not ever withdraw from her. One of the strongest bonds is between a mother and child, especially when her father is away. The love bond or trust gives healing in itself. I shared some ideas how to help her daughter, saying, "I had a wonderful mother, and I felt her love all of my life. Grandmas and aunties are also very important. Also men that are trustworthy." Then I saw hope begin to grow in her eyes. But she repeated her fear. "I'm afraid my daughter will never have children." The doctors even said this. Amazingly, I was able to say, "I know this fear because as a young single woman, doctors told me the exact same thing. You will never have children. But today, I have 4 sons, and they are all working to tell your story. Now you must give your little girl the most normal childhood possible. Keep telling her that you did everything you could to protect her. Tell her that she is a beautiful girl and that you love her. Tell her this every day."
It's a privilege for me to be able to be working with my mother. I help her from a web design perspective and also from a media perspective. And to actually come to Nepal has been inspirational and painful at the same time. We've heard some really touching stories about human trafficking, sex slaves, and this journey has opened our eyes to a greater cause.
Slowly, Nepal is working to protect her children according to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child.
The trafficking of the boys and girls is a serious problem, and it is a serious violation of child right also, because Nepal is a party of the Child Right Convention.
In Nepal, we have so many young girls, who have been raped. by their one parent, like father.
Yes, of course.
One like brothers.
A brother or an
and
uncle.
like uncle. And like because of the culture,
Yes.
the Hinduism and the
Yes.
Buddhism,
Yes.
people don't want to bring that, and they never get healed.
No,
and,
it's covered.
Like it's covered all the time, covered, and to cover this story, the women victimized again. Like how we can change this kind of, like culture.
Yes. Well, there's many things I perhaps could say. You asked me how I had the power to change. The first experience with the living God was when I was 4 years old. The next great experience was here in Kathmandu in 1968 at the Yak and Yeti Hotel. We were sitting in the bar around the fireplace, and I was prayed for to receive the infilling, the empowering, the Holy Spirit coming upon my life. The Holy Spirit was in my life when Jesus came into my life. When I experienced salvation for my body, my mind, and my soul. But the power of God came into me with this baptism in the Holy Spirit.
Maridel discovered that Indira was born into a Dalit family, but had overcome many, many obstacles to gain her university degree in political science.
I born in a family like my parents are illiterate and we are untouchable. My father is a tailor. Untouchable means like, they are not allowed to touch the water from the public tap. They are not allowed to enter into the people's house. They are not allowed to participate the like public ceremony, and they are not allowed to enter into the temple, even though they also belong to the Hindu religion.
While at university, someone gave her a Bible. But as a Hindu, her first reaction was completely negative.
I read the book of John, and like where God has said, like, I am the way, I am the light, I am the life, and like I feel if He is the way, where is the way for the privileged people in Nepal and the South Asia? And if He is the light, where is the light? Because the life of the underprivileged and the poor people or the minority people here is in dark, where. So I feel like, I don't have to read this book. So I just put some kerosene and put the light on it and burn it.
You burned it.
Later, Indira's reaction was different.
Being a Christian in a Hindu country, like it's very hard to deal with the police, lawyers, and also the government officers about trafficking. And most of the secular organizations, they don't do the charity work. They do lots of advocacy, but they don't support the victim. So I'm just like trying to make my way easy to advocate with the government and help the victims.
When Indira was 15, her mother became terminally ill with cancer. And for treatment, Indira went with her mother to a hospital in Mumbai, India. The cancer clinic was located in the middle of a red light district. When her mother was asleep, she went to a nearby brothel out of curiosity. Being short, slight, and not yet mature, and wearing a t-shirt and jeans, she passed as a young man. When asked what kind of a girl she wanted, her response was a small Nepali girl. And when alone with the trafficked girl, Indira asked her in Nepali, "How long have you been here, and what is the name of your village?" From the answers that she got, and from that moment on, a fire burned within Indira to change the destiny of poor trafficked Nepali girls suffering such horrific abuses.
Trafficking is a serious issue in Nepal, and it's happening at alarming scale, and it is a serious violation of human rights. It goes against the very dignity of women folks, and the world should know that the real place of the children is in school, not in brothels. The real place of the girls and boys, the schools and home, not in brothels. I would say it is a crime against humanity to traffic minors, the boys and girls who are underage. It's a serious issue, and I would say again, it is a crime against humanity, and without empowering the women, we can't empower the nation. We are losing our creative force.
Nepal's main problem with human trafficking is poverty. That is the main reason why girls are being trafficked. Parents are sending their daughters, uncles and aunts are selling their daughters to other countries. That is why, more than the aspect of rescuing the girls, is giving them employment opportunities, helping them, saving them from being trafficked in the first place. So my point of view is that we have to come up with solutions where we can educate girls, give them a lot of opportunities so that the human trafficking never becomes a problem for them and they're never sold at all.
You know, when children stay in school, they're 80% less likely to get trafficked. There are many villages in rural areas in Nepal where there are no girls over the age of 10.
And the global average age of a trafficked girl or boy is 13 to 14 years old. That's globally. That's true in every country in the world. So as soon as girls hit adolescence, they're trafficked. Globally, when girls are trafficked, they are brutalized physically and mentally, and something's held over them. In countries like Nepal, where we are right now, it's called debt bondage. So like money is given to their parents, and they're told that they have to repay the loan. And the loan is it's an advance for the work, but often they think they're going to be trained as a beautician, or they think they're going to work as a domestic servant. And then they find out the horrible truth. They've been trafficked into a brothel. They don't have their passport. They don't speak the language often. They're trafficked from one country to another. So they can't escape. And if they did, they wouldn't know how to communicate. They don't have legal documentation. They're often very young. And the main areas in Nepal are Tamil, which is where all the tourists go and shop. Well, at night, they have cabin restaurants there. And so you go and you eat dinner. And then you go in the back and you choose a number, and the number is with the girl. So each girl holds a number, or they have numbers at the table, and you just pick which number you want for dessert. So that's how it works here. It's same thing in Pokhara. There are lots of cabin restaurants, and globally, this is one of the destinations for sex tourism. Thailand is another well-known destination for sex tourism.
45 to 50,000 young girls, working in Kathmandu in a cabin restaurant, massage center, dance bar, and open restaurant. Because they think they will get a good job in Kathmandu with the good paid. But when they come to Kathmandu, there is no job opportunity here. The first easy to get the job is the entertainment business, because the owner have also easy way to attract, because once they go to this area, they got the job and it's so low paid, $15 to $25 in a month.
And do they provide a place for them to live?
No, they don't provide the place to live, but they provide the food while they are working, but the owner never provide the good food for them. The customer have to the customer have to buy for them. That means the girl or the women have to make happy the customer, otherwise they will not get food there and they will not get a salary as well. First they start working as a waiter, then the owner train them to dance. So they end up with the dancer.
And they decorate them, they wear beautiful clothes?
They decorate. Sometimes the owner provide them the dress, but most of the time the young girls have to buy themselves.
What about AIDS?
The age is 67% of the workers are minors. 67, yeah, we have the research report. Age 11 to 14.
And what about the incidence of AIDS?
The report, one of the research reports says that, in Tamil area, it's 1,500 sex workers are working.
In the Tamil area?
In Tamil area, and 700 are infected of HIV.
It's staggering.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but I find that. What happens if one of these minors are arrested?
Most of the time, like, when the police arrest, they don't mind they never care about the age. They don't care. And once they arrested, they have to pay some money to get out from there. And most of the time, police have a very well connection with the owner. So the police call to owner, and the owner go to the police station and get out from them, and again they victimized by the owner.
Now,
because
excuse me, but the owner is also the pimp.
Yeah.
And what do they pay to get these girls out of prison?
Sometimes it's began from 10,000 to 30,000 rupees. It depends.
10,000
to 30,000.
One time, here is what happened to us. We were driving home with friends from the restaurant, and the police stopped us. He took us to the station and verbally abused us, calling us bitches and sluts. He took our mobiles, our jewellery, and our shawls, and complained that we were prostitutes. We could not respond because it was a police station. The next day, the restaurant owner helped us girls to get out of the police station, but they filed a case against our male driver and co-worker. He had to stay in prison for 24 days and had to pay a fine of $150. Even the owner wouldn't pay for him, so we all collected the money and paid for him the fine ourselves.
And I am the voice for the voiceless people. There has been certain rules in the Nepalese recruitment process for the domestic workers, which has been highly exploited by the traffickers. And this is the reason why today the trafficking has increased in Nepal by 61% as per the research of National Human Rights Commission. Domestic workers has been introduced from Nepal for the Middle East since 2010 with the introduction of the mobility right, where every woman can travel freely without even taking permission from her parents or anyone of her family members. But this very process has been highly exploited by the traffickers to transport the innocent female from the villages of Nepal to the different countries in the Middle East. Once the females are trafficked to the Middle East, then they have to suffer there inside the house of their sponsor as a sexual slaves, and there they have, they not only suffer mental, physical torture, but also to some extent the females even commit suicide.
The trafficker came to my village and gave me some money to get my citizenship papers. I went with her to Kathmandu and stayed there 2 to 3 months, and I got all my papers. Then she said I should go with her. I said no. She kept my papers and said, do not tell your parents. Then I got very scared and I said I'm not going. Then, after a lot of hassles and promises of good money, I went to India, where she already had all the documents for a company in Dubai. I didn't know anything about my visa and other stuff because I'm illiterate.
The female migrant workers are sent from Nepal only against the money that they receive from the countries from Middle East. They pay, I believe, about 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs Nepalese rupees. And this is why the traffickers got very interested to send the female migrant workers. And there are a nexus operating where they go all over to the villages of Nepal. There is a network. They look for the desperate and innocent and helpless females, and they bring them to Kathmandu, and they are kept in Kathmandu, where they make their passport and they do their medicals. Everything is paid by the agent. The female doesn't have to pay anything. And then they are taken to Delhi or any other Indian cities, and from there they are sent to the Middle East.